I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, February the 28th, brought to you in part by Stay Tough, an expert in ag fencing. Stay Tough also offers a full line of tools and accessories for fence installation and repair, including some of the coolest ties and stays that you've ever seen that I would have loved to have used when I was younger and putting a lot of fencing in there. But stay strong, stay tight, and stay tough with Stay Tough Fencing. Wildfires are raging all over the North Texas Panhandle, and I'm not home right now. They say it's pretty smoky around the Amarillo area there, but they're not seeing the worst of the fires. The worst of the fires are in Gray County, Texas, and it seems like it always is the worst there than anywhere. That's northeast of Amarillo. There's several communities that are in jeopardy there. Fritch, Texas, which is near Lake Meredith, is in jeopardy of losing a lot of the town. And then some really cool towns up in the extreme northeast panhandle there. Miami, Texas, and Canadian, Texas was one of the coolest towns you'd ever want to go to there. And I just hope that they can save those towns. They had moisture up in that part of the Texas Panhandle here over the last few months, and there's a lot of fuel there. There's a lot of grass there, and it's burning. I tell you what, the winds have just been fierce, and we've gotten this early spring. Normally we don't see the worst of the fires for another month or two, but the early spring has brought the extreme winds. And when those winds are blowing 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, it doesn't take hardly anything to start a fire. A lot of times it happens just when the trains go by. There's a lot of sparks that are started by those trains going by, and that'll spark something that just gets completely out of control, and you can't stop it. You can't get ahead of it. And some people might think, well, when the wildfires are out there and there's nobody out there, it doesn't bother anything. No, bullshit. I tell you what, when those fires come through, they wipe out the improvements on those ranches. It wipes out fencing that just takes a lot of work and a lot of expense to try to come back and fix after that. It wipes out barns, it wipes out ranch houses, outbuildings, and cattle. We lose a lot of cattle in these big wildfires. And it's gotten so that the people have learned not to go out there, because we've lost a lot of good people in these fires. They get out there horseback and they think they can ride to the corner of the pasture and then get the fences open where the cattle can go on and get away from the fires. But then they get overwhelmed by the smoke and they can't get out of it. And I hope the people, as bad as we hate to lose the cattle, I hope that the people don't risk their lives to try to get ahead of that. But you know, they're losing their grass. That's their feed for their cattle, losing that grass. And then if we don't get some moisture coming back in behind that and the winds continue to blow, it blows all that seed away, and then you don't have anything to come back after it. But these wildfires are really dangerous. They're really scary. And we pray for those people that are in the path of those fires and hope for the best for them. The cattle market, your futures, anyway, were pretty much steady on Tuesday. So we've seen your feeder cattle futures are hanging up there, and they're currently sitting just a few months out here, currently sitting about 25 bucks higher than our current index. We can't believe how high these feeder cattle are right now. Of course, the calves and the stockers, I mean, it's spring, and everybody's got grass fever, and these stocker type cattle are out of sight. But the feeder cattle are also out of sight. And if you look down the line at your feeder cattle contracts, are 25 bucks higher than the current index. Are we going to see that much rise? I doubt we see all of it. You know, like I tell you, it always fades or evaporates before we get to it. And but that's one reason you guys got to look at these LRPs that are out front. They're very handsome. I realize they have high premiums to it. The government will kick in a portion of that and help you on that, but they're a no-brainer. You got to do it when there's big profits out there that you can lock in. You absolutely have to take advantage of it. But We did see a report come out, your cold storage report come out lately, and it says right as packers are cutting kills to energize this box beef cutout values, which they're getting it done. They've backed your kills off under 600,000 last week. They say they're going to be under 600,000 this week, but they're basically going to have to shut down on Friday to make that happen, because we haven't been too far off par here for the first 2 days of the week anyway. But your beef in cold storage is down 11% from a year ago, and it's at the lowest point that it's been since 2014, when our prices were all-time record high the last time. So, you know, it's likely that these packers are going to run out of product, and that's the last thing that they want to do. They've got to be there to supply their customers with the product, and, you know, they may have to run in red ink for a while, you know. They act like that's the end of the world when they have to do it. Cattle feeders, cow-calf people and backgrounders run in red ink all the time. So sometimes your packers are just going to have to do that whether they like it or not. Let's talk about your board on Tuesday. February live cattle futures were down just 12 cents at 185.60. April was down 37 at 187.72, and your back months were mixed, from down just 15 cents to up as much as 52, but really not too much going on in the live cattle pits. March feeder cattle were down a nickel at 253 smooth. April up a nickel at 258.95. That's about as steady as you can get. And your back months were unevenly steady, from down a quarter to up 27 cents. So not much going on, which is really strong after a bearish cattle on feed report, and you get a lot of pressure from the market gaining as much ground as it did last week to hold steady. That's kind of a positive note there on some volatile cattle futures. Look at your grains. March corn up a penny and a quarter at 408 1/4 cents a bushel. March beans down 4 3/4 cents at 11.31 1/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March up 9 3/4 cents at 593 1/2. Your fat cattle trade, of course, it's early in the week and we don't see much develop on a direct basis out in your 5-area feeding region. We did see a few loads selling Iowa at 288 dressed, so that's near steady, but that's nothing to really establish a market from. Of course, didn't see a hoof trade out of Nebraska, Kansas, or Texas, and of course Colorado doesn't do enough business for USDA to even tell us about due to confidentiality. But we did have our price discovery sale barn there. Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. Brick and mortar fat cattle auction, the biggest one in the nation, and they give us a good idea of what's going on in your fat cattle arena early in the week. They had a lighter run. I mean, they've got a lighter availability of market ready cattle too, even your farmer feeders there in the northern plains. 1,100 in overnight, 1,500 fat cattle in for the fat cattle auction there at Yankton. Greg Reichen does a great job with that sale barn, both fats and feeders. And they're recently added DVAuction broadcasting, so you can view and bid the sale there at Yankton, both your fat cattle, your cows, and your big feeder sales on Wednesday there at Yankton, South Dakota. And we're glad to have them on. Conventional fed cattle at Yankton sold from $2.50 to $4 higher, as called by my buddy Gary Marks there, that does a good job giving us information there, and he's just a retired fat cattle buyer there that loves to go to the sale barn, and we love it that he shares this information with us. But those conventional fat cattle sold from 180 to 186. The program fed cattle at Yankton sold $3 to $5 higher, from 181 to 188.75. And Gary did tell me about the extreme high there at Yankton was a load of 1,544 pound, mostly all prime heifers. Really slick deal there, a load of them in the ring. Brings 190.50. We're not going to smell anything like that on a direct basis in your 5-area feeding region this week, guys. Box beef cutout values were mixed. Your choice cuts down a nickel at 301.74, but holding that over 300, which is a good deal if we're going to see these fat cattle prices go any higher. Select cuts up 241 at 290.40. Your slaughter, like I said, they're not pulling back so far early this week. 247,000 through the first 2 days of this week. That was 18,000 more than a disappointing week last week, and just 3,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Legend Bank is your home for fast and efficient cattle financing. If you're struggling finding a banker that knows about the cattle business, understands it, and is willing to loan you money, get a hold of Greg Brooks or Ricky Taylor at Legend Bank. They're sitting in North Texas, but they can finance your cattle operation in all of Texas and Oklahoma. They kind of understand the cattle business there. Don't forget, Legend Bank is a member of FDIC. All loans are subject to credit approval, and they are an equal housing lender. For more information, go to legend.bank. For now, you look at your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Tuesday, sitting at 247.63 based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, just like your CME cash feeder cattle index. That real-time index gained $1.43 on Tuesday through the trading on Tuesday after being really stout. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 246.46. Of course, it's always a day and a half behind, and it'll be trailing right behind when it updates the next time. Talk about your big sales on Tuesday. How about Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri? There are Tuesday sale to get a trend on, and they typically have a good enough run to get a trend on. They did again this week. Sold 2,950 head through the ring in south central Missouri. Another 678 head on their in-house video they do with help from DVAuction, and that is a weekly deal for them, guys. But the calves going through the sale ring there sold $5 to $10 higher, with spots $15 higher. Your feeder weights, and they were mostly calves too, weighing over 600 pounds, sold $3 to $6 higher. Stick out sale there at West Plains with some black and black baldy steers there. Come from one of their better consigners from Batesville, Arkansas. Remember, that's the home of NASCAR great Mark Martin there in Batesville. I always remember that. But they had a fair weigh up and a fair flesh condition, which is important, especially though for those crafty buyers there at West Plains. But they sold 270 head black and black baldy steers in one whack. They weighed 556 and bring 329.85. Impressive quote there from West Plains, Missouri. Your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day was Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, sitting just north of those big fires, and they say that wind's going to crank that way. I hope that all my friends there and their ranches and everybody stays safe there. And going home, don't drive into any smoke, guys. You don't know what you're getting into. But 5,300 feeders there at Beaver County Stockyards on Tuesday. They'll have their cow sale here today on Wednesday. But you look at your automated market report through Cattle Market Central from Beaver County Stockyards. You see your best tested weights, which was a bunch of them. How about 527 head of 5-weight steers, average 551 at 325.27. There were 516 head of the 6-weight steers in Beaver. They averaged 661 at 284.67 on the weighted average price. Almost 800 head of 7-weight steers in Beaver. They averaged 738 pounds at 260.51, and 452 head of 8-weight steers. Beaver County Stockyards have a weighted average weight of 858 pounds and weighted average price of $235.17. Look at some heifer weights. About 412 head of 5-weight heifers, average 552 at 276.08. 668 head of 6-weight heifers, average 650 pounds at 244.86. And 707 head of 7-weight heifers in Beaver County Stockyards, no man's land, eastern edge of the Oklahoma Panhandle, at an average weight of 735 pounds, average price at $230.16. You can view and bid Beaver County Stockyards every week, DVAuction.com. Going to give you some individual quotes from all around. How about 4-state stockyards in Exeter, Missouri? That is extreme southwest corner of Missouri there. They do a good job. They sold 61 steers, weighed 768 at $255 there at 4 State Stockyards in Exeter, Missouri. How about a sale barn we recently hooked up on DVAuction? We're glad to have them as part of our family of broadcasted barns. But Fairview Livestock Commission Company in Fairview, Oklahoma, they sold 50 head, 666-pound steers at $284.50. It's a big time quote, guys. How about Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota? They get the big prices up there. They sold 86 steers, weighed 727 at $286.10, guys, weighing over 7 1/4. Wow. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock in La Junta, Colorado. Buddy John Campbell gave me the heads up on this quote, and when he gave it to me, I told him I didn't know that his auctioneer, Marty Neugebauer, could count that high. But John Campbell said he did have his boots and socks off. He was using all 10 or 11 toes that he's got there and getting her counted up. But he sold 72 steer calves in La Junta, Colorado. They weighed 473 at $387.50. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.